protection of the historical agricultural rates that we have.
Okay, again, 1 minute per answer per question. The question is, how do you deal with these historical agricultural rates?
How do you feel about the, who said that?
How do we feel
How
about
do you feel about the protection of historical agricultural rates?
in terms of what I
Have
understand?
you been protecting those rates or wiping them out?
Well, boy, that's a big question, and I appreciate it. I think the question is, how do I feel about the agricultural rates? And I think you've got to understand my background. I grew up on my family's farm. I was a farmer when I got out of undergraduate for a year, and then went to law school after my grandpa had a heart attack, and I got spooked and wanted an insurance policy, and I fell in love with the practice of law. So I'm very sensitive to ag. I know that agriculture creates revenue for the county. I know agriculture, when you have revenue, you've got resources, you've got income. And I understand and appreciate that the El Dorado Irrigation District started as an agricultural district. So I feel that to the extent that I want to lower rates for everybody, including ag. So that's going to be my ultimate goal here.
The variable consumption rate for agriculture is 1/17th the rate of what other ratepayers pay. In the cost of service thing, it used to be 1/13th. The cost of service process was going to move it to about 1/11th, so that that the NIPO preference. But actually, after the cost of service committee disbanded, there was some changes that in fact didn't leave it even at the 1/13th, went to 1/17th. We want to, we treasure the agriculture community, but when you have the average agricultural customer paying $700 a year and the average residential water customer in El Dorado Hills paying $750 for 1/17th the water, there's a little bit of a mismatch. So I believe we need to have some adjustment in that process, but certainly not anything punitive.
You know, I'd love to stand up here and tell you I want to lower all the water rates and tell you that I can lower the water rates. The reality is the best we can hope for is stop the escalating increase in water rates. As far as the ag rates, everything's on the table. As far as I'm concerned, we go into EID, we retool it, we use tried and true methods. Whatever has to be adjusted gets adjusted. We do whatever it takes to solve the problem. Unfortunately, it's not going to be lowering water rates. The best we can hope for is keeping them from escalating at their current rate.
Okay, we have one over here on this side of the room.
Did I hear you correctly say that there was a 6% pay increase this year and 7% next year?
Yes.
These guys
For most employees, the majority of employees.
Do they think
So
they're
you're
El Dorado
you're
County
up next, so everybody
firefighters?
gets a chance.
Well, Alan Day, the director from Division 5, actually did not know. He thought when he was going through all these secret meetings that it was going to be a 2% hike, but actually there was another provision in the MOU that no one mentioned that bumped, continued the step increase of 5%. So the two were added.
One of the policies that I would institute, there will be no pay raises and no increase in benefits in the face of rate increases. If you're getting a rate increase, no employee or manager is going to get a raise or increase in benefits based on your back on that rate increase.
What was I missed
This
the,
about pay.
you were just asking whether it had happened or not.
Well, it's 6% seems like, sign me up. 6 this year, 7 next.
What do you think about
Right,
it?
right. I mean,
Why do you think
at
we're
the end of the
running
day,
these
at
offices?
the end of the day, we're not talking about a jobs program here. We're talking about a safely delivering water at a reasonable price. So I think that I'm offended by what you're hearing as well, and I think if I'm going to ask people to cut, it's gonna start with me as a board member. EID board members, get a stipend for serving on the board. I do work full-time, and I'm fortunate enough that I have a company that permits me to go and volunteer my time like this. And I don't think that I should be compensated for that. So the $1,250 that they give to EID board members as a stipend, I'm telling you I'm not taking it. And also they give, the EID gives board members health insurance for serving on the board. And I'm telling you right now, I have that option. I will not take it. If I'm gonna ask people to cut things, it's gonna start with me.
We have another question over here.
Okay, let's see, we did, okay, one more here. Each of you had talked about cutting costs, including a moratorium on new debt. In the existing capital improvement program, which specific projects would you work to postpone or eliminate?
I'll take that one first. I'm not gonna comment on which one specifically should go. I think what we need to do though, because we need to focus on each one of these projects and see which is the priorities for us. We need to set numbers for the management and say, this is what you can live within, so that we are not continuing the rate hikes that we're seeing. And from that, I think what we need to do is a classification or a prioritization, not a classification like they have now. We need to prioritize what's going to affect the safe drinking water of El Dorado County, what's going to affect our sewage, what is a regulatory issue that we need to comply with so that we aren't getting hammered by the state and federal government or fined by them. Those are the things we need to set sort of a criteria within a certain budget that we can live within.
Okay, you want to go next?
In EID's current 5-year CIP, they have roughly 135 projects. 132 of them are called priority 1 or priority 2. Well, when you have every engineer coming in with their number one priority of the day, and the board says, oh my God, we got to do this, something is wrong. As far as the board members figuring out which project needs to be cut, no, that doesn't work that way. The engineering staff, the internal people, they're the experts. But management has to be told that we've only got so much money we're going to spend. You got to figure it out as to the smart way to spend that money. And right now they're deficit spending $15 million a year on projects, and just digging a bigger and deeper hole all the time. We had one project. It was a mini hydro project this year, supposedly going to increase the amount of hydro revenue 1.6% a year, and they spent, they already threw $500,000 into that. It's the first level of a $1.9 million project. That's crazy.
Once again, I think to sit down and say, I would cut this project or I would cut that project, they actually did a presentation where they showed all of their projects. I didn't attend that meeting. I think you'd have to have a lot of inside EID information to do that. But I have a program that's not just about cuts. When you practice medicine, if somebody's got a sore finger, you don't just immediately say, I'm going to cut the finger off. You treat the patient. One of the things you learn in medicine is if you're going to cut, you're going to cry. Every time you do surgery, there are complications to the surgery. There's pain and damage to the patient. My approach would be to look at the global operations at EID, then decide what needs to be cut. Maybe the finger needs to be cut off, I don't know. But certainly I wouldn't make a statement like that now. Again, I would use a tried and true proven approach and a global approach to treating the patient, not just worrying about which finger to cut off.
Someone over there.
Okay, we have another question on this side.
What steps, if any, would you take to extend agricultural water to the underserved or unserved areas?
I would, first of all, spend some time with the agricultural farm board and get input from them. Clearly, this is not something that I'm an expert on, but I must say when the ag rates are 1/17 of others, if we do something more that invests in agriculture, it can't go in the back of 38,000 regular ratepayers. So we gotta move the monies around and not add to further burden on folks that are getting 102% rate hikes.
Again, I'd approach this project like all projects. I'd do a cost-benefit analysis. I would look at what could be done, how much it would cost to do it, and what the benefits of doing it would be. So as far as extending EID services to anyone, whether it's agriculture, another residential area, underserved areas, anywhere, it all has to be approached the same way, in a business-like fashion. Cost-benefit analysis, appropriate data, and then acting on that data, not on speculation.
Sure, and in terms of the underserved and unserved agriculture, I'm running in a division that my constituents are going to be basically suburban folks. So we've already been developed. So in terms of the underserved and unserved, I think the advocates will be folks from the other divisions that do have agricultural interests. I'm always going to look through the lens of the 14,000 or so ratepayers that are in my division before looking at any sort of expansion in spending.
Thank you. I guess we have one on the right. Okay.
EID has a public relations staff of 4 PR flags. Does EID need that much PR? As a director, will you emphasize truth and transparency, even politically unwelcome truth?
I'd like to take that one.
If I'm elected as an EID board of directors, I'm going to have a kitchen cabinet. In that kitchen cabinet, every facet of the county is going to be represented. Every stakeholder, every one of the factions. We're going to meet periodically. I'm going to get the input from those people and how we should govern EID. But not only are they going to give me input in how I vote, they're going to be a window on EID that can transport that information back to their constituents, back to their factions, back to their stakeholders. I'll also have an interactive internet network. It's called interactive government. We'll be able to carry on a conversation constantly about what's going on at EID, how I should vote, what's best for you, what your input is. And it won't be a one-way conversation. So if I'm on the board of directors, there will be transparency. It will be both ways.
I think your question was, what do we do about 4 PR people initially? And I mean, I'm of the mindset again that the EID shouldn't be the Tennessee Valley Authority. I think the job is to get water safely. I think one of the issues about transparency, though, and one of the problems that the EID has, is they have meetings on Monday mornings twice a month. I know I work, and it shouldn't be an EID board or an EID function for retired folks. It needs to be all of the people involved in our county, the moms and dads that are sending their kids to soccer games, that need to have an opportunity to go and be heard and hear what's happening with the EID. So in that light, I'm going to propose we move EID meetings to the evening time so folks can get there and not limit the public comment to 3 minutes when we don't want to hear what the public has to say. We need to open it up. If there's public comment that needs to be made and you're upset about something, you should be able to be heard in a board that I'm involved in.
Greg, you
Certainly.
For a 3-year period, I was the most prevalent citizen at EID board meetings. I stopped going this spring because it just became too argumentative. But not necessarily because I make my case, but then they'd go around and it was like that old TV show Crossfire. I was grabbing arrows out of my chest. We need to have the opportunity for people to come to these meetings. And the only way you do that is to have them when people can come, which is more often than not is in the evening. some of those meetings should be down the hill a little bit. You know, they're all up in Placerville, you know, so you get the, you know, certain, you know, constituencies to come in and chat. But for the most part, you don't have the regular ratepayer there, so that clearly needs to be done. Back to your issue on the PR staff and so forth, that's part of the overhead equation. My feeling is that if EID starts doing a better job, we won't need to have 3 people telling us what a great job they do.